Welcome to all. We are just 30 minutes past 3 p.m. in India. Good morning, good evening to all participants. I herewith welcome our President Honorary Dr. Raghav, President Dr. Marco Arcilleri, Vice President Honorary Dr. Reddy, and all panelists for the today's webinar. The webinar is on topic application of models in water energy food nexus. It is scheduled for near about 2 hours. The time allocation for each presenter will be near about 20 to 25 minutes so that we can have ample time for question and answers, and there will be free discussions on the topic which will be very well welcomed by all participants. So I welcome all. After the presentations, we will have question and answer sessions. So I request all participants to please keep sending your questions, your doubts on the topics. After the written questions, if time permits, we will allow some time to the participants to raise their hand and ask their questions so that they can get clarified from our panelists. Please indicate your willingness to share your experience, your questions by raising your e-hand so that we can attend your queries. I welcome all and hand over the panel to Dr. Reddy to introduce our panelists and to give details regarding the webinar and all of details. Thank you all. Dr. Reddy.
Thank you, Chivataji. Thank you very much. And in fact, it's my pleasure to take over. And it is very important webinar being organized by the Water Energy Food Nexus Working Group. Its chairman is our President Honorary Professor Raghav, and myself as the co-chair. And it has a very good mandate and a good intention this working group has started. It made significant progress. I'm sure our President Honorary will brief it. In fact, today we have three eminent presenters from IIT Kharagpur, Dr. Rajendra Singh, and we have Laksan Namo from South Africa, and also Alok Sikkaji from IMI, Indian Representative Delhi. And it's going to be a wonderful experience for all the participants because the theme is very important. That's the use of models, this application of models in water energy food nexus. Before I deal about this thing, okay, our President Honorary Dr. Raghav will explain. And today I'm very glad that our President ICID, Dr. Marcos, also joined from Italy. And I just introduce our President to start the proceedings because it is very important. Dr. Raghav has done very significant work in ICID outside. And it's my honor to inform all the participants briefly about our Honorary President Raghav. He is the fellow principal hydrologist and water resource management specialist at UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, Wallingford, Oxfordshire, UK. And in fact, he was the president for the term 3 years, 2020 to 23. He was there in Vizag recently, presiding for the 25th ICID Congress. And he was the vice president of ICID for 2001 term, 2010 to 2013. And he was the chairman of Permanent Committee on Strategy and Organization of ICID, which is a very important body. And he was the founder of the working group on the use of non-conventional water resources for irrigation. So that is one important initiative he took in ICID. He was also chairman of the working group on water energy food nexus of ICID. As in today, he is chairing this webinar also. He is the chairman of the British National Committee on Irrigation and Drainage earlier for 4 years, 2007 to 2011. He is adjunct professor of Alexandria University, Egypt, since 2007, still continuing. And he is an international advisor to several national international organizations. And in fact, ICID feels proud to have such eminent people in ICID doing global work. And he is also reviewer for more than 20 international journals. So again, outstanding contribution. Okay, he is reviewing a lot of journals across the globe. And in fact, he is instrumental in developing two models which are widely used in the world today. One is SaltMate for the field scale operations. One is IHMS, Integrated Hydrological Modeling System for catchment or basin level. So these are only few his contributions. He received a number of awards, lot of things for his credit, and it's really a pleasure for me to have working with him. Having working with him since 2009 and 10, we were in one working group, that water and crop working group earlier. Working group. I was the secretary. Now we took over this one, water energy food nexus. Thank you, Raghav, for joining us. And I would like you to just introduce everything about this initiative and about this webinar point of view. Now, if you wish, I think President Marcos has joined. Would you like him to speak few words before the commencement, President Anthony?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Welcome, Marcos. It's an honor for us as the President of ICID, sitting President. It's a pleasure for us to have you in the webinar. I request you to say a few words before Dr. Raghav take over, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to join this very important webinar that deals with the Water for Food Energy Nexus. We all are aware of the importance that these arguments have today all over the world, and thus it's very, very important for me and an honor as well to give my introductory salute and my wishes for a very fruitful webinar, which I'm sure is going to turn out to be. Allow me to say hello to all of you, President Honoraire, Professor Dr. Raghav, who will certainly, he has been so many years leading and chairing the Water for Food Energy Nexus working group. So I'm sure that under his guide, this webinar will be very, very productive one. Vice President Honoraire Yelaredi, who I thank also for his enduring and continuous work on promoting initiatives of ICID, all the speakers, of course, all the distinguished speakers of this webinar, and of course my friends of Central Office, Dr. Shivate, Dr. Madhu Mohan, who always work so hard to provide us with assistance for webinars, but also for all other aspects of ICID. So this is just to say hello to all of you, to the speakers and the people who will gather to this interesting webinar. And I wish you a very, very fruitful webinar, and I'm sure that the interest that the speeches that will follow up will gain a lot of questions, and I'm sure that the answers will be mostly responsive for all the issues that will be dealt with. So thank you, and have a nice webinar. Thank you. See you very soon. Bye.
Thank you, President Marcos, and he's also a member of this working group. Thank you,
Yes.
and welcome for the participation.
Yes.
Raghav, I think you can start, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy, Vice President and member of the Vice Chairman of the working group, and also a member of working group. Thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Marco, for attending and giving opening remarks and greetings. For the Nexus in particular, I would like to say that interdependence and interrelations between water, energy, and food were well known since the early civilization, which were started by the rivers like the Nile and by the Tigris and Euphrates. Sorry?
Yeah, that's okay. I have muted him, sir. That's okay, sir. Please continue, sir.
Okay. So let me say it again. The interdependence and interrelations between water, energy, and food were well known since the early civilization, which are known to have started beside large rivers like the Nile and Mesopotamia, early civilization by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. However, the use of resources more efficiently were not pressing issues during those periods due to the plentiful resources that were more than the need of such a small size of population. As the population increased, while resources did not, the need for efficient use of resources produced two new concepts. The first old concept was to produce more crop per drop. Then, when the energy was taken into account, a new concept emerged, meant more crop per drop per kilowatt. The first international conference to recognize the importance of the Nexus was held between 16 and 18 November 2011 in Bonn, Germany. That was the first time that a conference was to be held on the issue of the Nexus. And people started to realize the benefit of the Nexus. What are these benefits? The Nexus can stimulate innovation and the use of new technologies, for example, efficient irrigation systems, non-conventional, innovative energy sources, like solar panels and so on. In addition, the Nexus could also lead to better governance arrangements via cross-sectoral water, food, energy frameworks and policies. It could also lead to developing integrated management, accounting for the water, food, energy, and the impact of climate, land use, and population changes. However, the benefits differ according to the scale, from city level, regional level, national level, to transboundary level. Our working group, the Nexus Working Group, organized 3 international workshops until now. The first was in Bali in 2019, and then followed by Adelaide in Australia, then followed in 2023 by a workshop in Visage, India. A fourth workshop is planned for Sydney in Australia, September this year. Within 4 years of the working group activities, we moved from recognition of the Nexus in 2019 to quantifying the Nexus in 2022 to implementing and modeling the Nexus at a spatial and temporal scales in 2023 in Visage, India. Today, we have 3 excellent speakers and interesting presentations on the state of the art of the Nexus. I am sure you'll benefit from and you will enjoy the webinar, and I would like to welcome you all at our next International Nexus Workshop in Sydney, Australia, the first week of September this year. Please go to the ICID website for more details. And finally, I would like to welcome our speakers, Dr. Alok Sikka from IMI, India, Dr. Rajendra Singh, IIT from India, Dr. Luxan Namo from WRC South Africa, and I thank them for accepting our invitation to share the knowledge. I would like also to thank again our ICID president for attending this webinar. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very fruitful day today. Over to you, Vice President Honorary Dr. Yella Reddy.
Thank you, Chair of this working group, for explaining background about this workshop and various activities taken up by the working group for last 5 years or so. It's a really great contribution, and your guidance really helped us to reach this place, this level. Again, I thank you. Now we will go with the presentations. As per the order, this is the first presentation by Dr. Rajendra Singh from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. I think Dr. Rajendra Singh, are you there?
Yeah, I am very much there.
Yeah,
Good
very
afternoon,
nice.
Dr.
Very happy
Reddy.
to see you.
Yeah.
I
Same
just
here, same here.
Yeah, it's a welcome. I just would like to introduce to the audience about Rajendra Singh ji. Many people know about his in India, but there are many international people. I just briefly just to give a brief about Dr. Singh. He is the faculty of IIT Kharagpur in the Department of Agriculture and Food Engineering Department since 1989. He did his PhD from IIT Kharagpur, postdoctoral research as a Boyce Cast Fellow at the Danish Hydraulic Institute, Denmark. He also did second postdoc research at the University of Connecticut, USA. And he has developed and popularized 5 software packages, including the hydrology calculator, SCS design, and decision support system for estimation of ET, and many other contributions he made. And he is one of the leading contributor in Mike Shea expansion in India through his lot of expertise. A lot of students worked on that. He has guided 18 PhDs and 75 MTech students at IIT Kharagpur. He was also Dean of the EG Studies for IIT Kharagpur for one term. Is really one of the administrative posts he did very excellently at the IIT Kharagpur as a Dean. And he has received many number of awards, many, but I'm not going to tell. But one important fellowship is the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, the prestigious one he received. And he received Jawaharlal Nehru Award for his doctoral thesis, best PhD work. And he also published a number of books. For one book, he got outstanding book award, that is a Soil and Water Conservation Structural Design. So this is briefly about Dr. Singh. And I request Dr. Singh now to take over and present his this use of models in the Nexus of WF. Thank you, Dr. Singh ji.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. I hope my presentation is visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank ICID for giving this opportunity to me. And I would like to say hello to Professor Raghav, Dr. Marco Reddy, of course, Dr. Sikka, other ICID officials like Dr. Chiwate, and all participants from around the world. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. So, my topic of my presentation is development and application of a multi-scale water energy food nexus model. And Krishna Mandal and Professor Chandra Chatterjee are other contributors to this work. I organized my presentation in the following form. I will give a little bit of background about the presentation, about the topic, the motivation of developing the model. I'll present some few results and conclude. Now coming to water energy nexus, as we know that water energy food, Dr. Raghav mentioned that probably these drive the national and regional development, both economic and social development of any region or any nation. And of course, as he highlighted that these resources are interlinked, and these interlinks are well established by this time, and that is why we are talking about water energy food nexus. However, these resources are under tremendous stress, and if you take the example of India, in terms of unmet demand, then we have 91 million people having no access to basic water supply. Around 13% households have no access to electricity, and now 189 million people are undernourished. Those central and state governments have devised various policies and schemes, but the stress doesn't go off as demands are increasing because of population growth, because of economic development, and because of changes in the consumption pattern, mostly driven by the economic development in the country. Now, if you look at the 2050 challenges for the world, we'll have to support a population in between 9.4 to 10.2 billion people. And for that, we would require 20 to 30% more water, around 80% more food, and 50% more energy. If we look at India, then we'll have to support around 1.7 billion people, and thus will require 30% more water, 32% more food, and 50% more energy. So this really this requires that we move from resource-centric management approach to a systematic water energy food nexus approach. And of course, for doing that, we need models or modeling tools. As far as existing modeling tools are concerned, our review showed that there are around 46 WF Nexus tools or models developed between 2009 and 2021, which was also supported by a review paper published by Taguta and others in 2022. However, 61% of these models are unreachable to the intended users. That means they are confined to their developers. Around 70% lack key capabilities like GIS integration and scale transferability, which means that their applicability into new study area will be challenging. And only 28% of these models have been applied by multiple users. And some of these models which have been applied by multiple users, more than 10 users in fact, are put here, which also includes MuseaSim, which was developed in 2009. That is before the 2011 Bonn conference, which Dr. Raghav mentioned earlier, which was the first conference talking about water energy food nexus. But if you look at the color code, then MuseaSim, water energy food nexus 2.2, WF Nexus Index, Nephew, these are some models which are only applicable at country or national scale. That means they cannot be used for a basin level study or for subnational study. Similarly, if you look at the PADI-RAN WF Security Index or QNexus or SIM4 Nexus models, then they do not have GIS interface. So that's developing the model setup will be a challenge. And a few models like VPLEAP, they are sector-centric. For example, VPLEAP only talks about water and energy, and food is completely missing. So this review really told us that we have a scope to develop a robust WF Nexus tool, which should have multi-scale flexibility or transferability, which should have GIS interface, and which should have adaptability across users and uses. And basically, this motivated us to go for developing a new WF Nexus model. This is the modeling framework that is we have for analyzing the resource availability and accessibility in terms of food, water, and energy. We have three different modules: food module, water module, and energy module, which receive food security, water security, energy security related data, and then we calculate or determine water, energy, and food sub indices, which go into the water energy food nexus model, so that we are able to determine water energy food nexus index. And for validation, we basically use Spearman's correlation coefficient. If you look at the model features, then a model has a database developed in MySQL, and the programming language used both for the code and also for graphical user interface is Python. And for RS, that is remote sensing and GIS features, we have again used Python module RSGS library. And as far as technical Nexus index calculation is concerned, it is based on PADI-RAN WF Nexus index, but we have modified PADI-RAN to a large extent actually. And I will talk about the modifications we have included into the PADI-RAN approach. First thing is that PADI-RAN water availability, the total water availability for the study area, that's a user-defined thing. But what we have done is that we have, in our model, water balance equations basically determine the water availability. That means the meteorological data of the region is taken into consideration while defining the total water availability. Then our model takes into account sector-wise water requirement and use. Padiran had just municipal water supply, but we have also included the agricultural water supply, which is one of the major water consumers, and also the industrial use. Padiran only had cereals but we have included chicken, fish, meat, egg production, everything into food. Then Padiran had just a single dietary requirement for entire population, but we have divided that based on the dietary requirement for different age groups. Then we have also taken into account renewable energy sources, that means all kinds of energy that is available to us. And the modern equipments like solar lift irrigation or the modern farm equipment which are used by farmers, that have also been included in our model. Then for as far as food accessibility is concerned, Padiran used only food price level index, but we have also included global hunger index for estimating the food accessibility. Thus, the existing equation of Padiran we have modified accordingly. For example, if you see if water availability is there, then we can see that precipitation and evapotranspiration are taken into account. Similarly, the water required for domestic purposes, crop production, chicken production, meat production, milk production, egg production, all these are included in our model. And similarly, on energy side, we have included thermal, solar, hydropower, wind energy. And of course, the requirement again in various kinds of productions are taken into account. If you look at the food side, then obviously we have crop production, fish production, chicken production, meat production, egg production. All these are considered as food availability items. And already I mentioned that accessibility, we have included the hunger index as one of the criteria. Now, this is how the graphical user interface of our model looks like. And that is Water Energy Food Nexus model developed at IIT Kharagpur. And this is the start window. If you click on the start window, then we get 4 toggle buttons: database, execution, output, and help. And if you click on the database, then we have 2 options of selecting existing database or creating a new database. So if we select an existing database, then obviously the basic map or base map of the study area is displayed. And on the left-hand panel, you can look into basic information about the study area and also the water security, energy security, and food security related data. One can also edit the data using these features. If you want to develop a new database, that is for a new study area, then of course you have to specify the name. You have to put the year for which you are putting the data, because it's a yearly time scale at which analysis is done. You have to provide basic information study area and put water security, energy security, and food security information in desired format, which is available in the help manual. Then when you go for execution, then obviously one has to select the year for one wishes to do the simulation. And once you do the simulation, then output can be visualized in tabular form as well as in graphical form on map view. In tabular form, we have tables which provide water, energy, and food sub-indices besides water, energy, food index for the study area. And in map view, as you can see that various indices can be seen graphically, how the indices are varied over the study area. That is specially that can be seen right here. Now, in order to test our model, just to show that it is flexible, we have tested it at 2 levels. One is the basin level and another the national sub-national scale. And for basin level testing, we have used Kangsavati River Basin, which is situated in the eastern Indian state of West Bengal. These are the longitude and latitude. The study area is around 5,800 square kilometers. There are total 23 micro-administrative units, which are referred to as blocks in India. And 3 districts of West Bengal, that is Purulia, Bankura, and West Midnapur, are partly covered in this basin. If you look at the sub-national scale, we have used India in the whole country, and we have used 29 states and 7 union territories, which were existing in January 2019. Of course, from October 2019 onwards, we have 28 states and 8 union territories. So total 36 units have been considered for sub-national scale study. And these are the relevant data which are shown here. As far as data used are concerned, we have primarily, we depended mostly on the secondary data that is available from government websites, that is various Government of India ministries, state government ministries, and also some of the common, like for IMD, we have used IMD data, that is meteorological data. Similarly, we have a indiastat.com where a lot of statistical data is provided, that also we have used. And for local basin study, we have also taken help of local NGOs in collecting some of the data. So these are the list of data and their sources which we have collected from different places. Now, coming to results at testing at the basin scale, as you can see on the left panel, that showed the water sub-index distribution over the basin. And as you can see here from color coding, water sub-index varies from medium to very high. That means values vary from 0.51 to 1. And 92% blocks have high to very high water security index. That means values range from 0.7 to 1, which is pretty healthy. If you look at the right panel, which is basically energy sub-index, then you can see that energy sub-index varies from low to high. That means the value, lowest value is between 0.31 to 0.5, which can be seen here in this particular block as a low energy security. And around 79% blocks have a high energy security. Similarly, if you look at the food sub-index, then food sub-index varies from medium to very high. That means from more than 0.5, and 70% blocks have high to very high food security index. And taking all these things together, the water security, water energy food security nexus index have been calculated. And 75% blocks have a high to very high WF nexus index. That is high to very high, that means 0.71 to 1. And since all blocks have water energy and food sub-indices greater than 0.5, it shows that the blocks are on the path to achieving WF security. It also indicates that some of the schemes and policies that have been devised by central and state ministries and governments and implemented, they are producing desirable results. You got good, then in order to further analyze the result, we have also analyzed the results from policy intervention needs point of view. And you can see that this color coding, this particular block on the top, Jalda 2, which is encircled red color, that shows that water energy and food security values show that it requires intervention on all 3 aspects, that is water, energy, and food. That means all 3 schemes that are pertaining to all 3 resources must be carefully evaluated and implemented in this particular area. Similarly, some some blocks require energy and food related schemes focus, and this particular one requires from energy, and a couple of blocks require also from food security. So obviously, this in one shot, it gives an idea to administrators and policy makers that what are the places where the policies should be implemented properly, or whether there is a need to change anything in the existing policy to suit the local requirements. That's what has been done. Now, coming to testing at sub-national scale, these 3 panels show the water, energy, and food sub-index variation across the study area. Now, if you look at the leftmost panel, it shows the water sub-index varies from medium to high. That means, again, 0.5 to more than 0.5. and 57% of states or union territories have medium water security, and 40% have high water security. That means from water perspective, the situation is quite good. But if you look at the energy sub-index, it varies from low to medium, and only 71% of states have medium ESI. That means energy is a major concern as far as overall energy security is concerned. And if you look at food sub-index on the rightmost panel, it varies from medium to very high. That is again more than 0.5. And 80% of states and union territories have a high food security index. That shows that as far as food is concerned, country is quite safe, followed by water, but energy is the most important concern. Again, from the policy perspective, you see these states, Kerala, Jharkhand, Manipur, they require intervention on all three sources, that is water, energy, food. But there are a few like this Jammu and Kashmir, we require focus on energy and food. There are few states like Rajasthan, Gujarat, MP, then few in southern India also, they require focus from water energy, and few require only from energy perspective. So obviously, this again tells the national policy administrators or developers, policy makers, that which states lack in what particular resource and what security is missing, and what kind of policy should be either renewed or implemented properly so that conditions could be improved. So with these initial results, which were quite encouraging, we thought that why not go ahead and add few more models. So recently we have added climate change impact analysis module, because climate change is coming in a big way. And of course, we are also working on including a policy analysis module. As far as climate change impact module is concerned, that is based on the fact that climate change will likely impact all three resources: water, food, and energy. Water is temperature and precipitation will change, thus altering the hydrological cycle. Food, because rising temperatures are likely to impact crop yield. And of course, energy is thermal power plant efficiency, hydropower potential, and cooling water use will all change with the climate change. Now, besides usual data, which I already mentioned, we also went ahead and collected climate data, long-term observed climate data, rainfall maximum minimum temperature over 1981 to 2021 from India Meteorological Department, and climate data on rainfall maximum minimum temperature from CMIP6, that is AR6, GCM, ECR3. And we have considered two scenarios, SSP scenarios, that is shared socioeconomic pathways, 245 and 585. 245 basically represents the medium road to development, which means the historical development progresses, whereas SSP 585 is basically, it means that fossil fuel development, that means higher energy requirement. And then we have considered 1981 to 2014 as historical period, 2015 to 2021 as transition period, and 2022 to 2100 is future. And future is again divided into near future, 2022 to 2061, and far future, 2062 to 2100. And soil and crop data we have collected from experimental plots and also district agriculture officer. And the crop data has been taken from for a particular rice cultivar, IR36 cultivar, from the experimental plots in our own farm. And that has been taken from Devnath and others in 2021. Now coming to inclusions of processes, the future periods annual average precipitation under both scenarios directly feeds into Nexus model. Potential evapotranspiration is determined using modified Hargreaves-Saman equation under both scenarios. And actual evapotranspiration has been obtained by multiplying potential evapotranspiration with the crop coefficient. And in our case, as I mentioned, that we have used IR36 cultivar for rice. Then as far as energy is concerned, for future thermal energy requirements, we have based our estimation by carrying out decadal change analysis. That means for 2011 to 2021. And then we have calculated the percent change in annual average temperature by comparing with the 30-year average annual temperature over 1982 to 2011. And the percent change in thermal energy production in each future year is determined by reduction of thermal power plant efficiency by 0.4 to 0.7% for every 1 degree increase. And that has been taken from these references. These references have been used for using this particular information. Now, as far as crop is concerned, we have used the FAO aqua crop model that has been basically integrated into our model. And that has been used for both seasons, Kharif and Rabi, that means monsoon and winter season in India, in the basin at block scale. And the model was calibrated using experimental data, and the rice yields have been simulated using IMD observed data for historical and transition period. And for future scenarios, we have used predictions for 2021 to 61 and 61 to 2100. And percent change in rice yield due to climate change were analyzed by comparing future and historical yields, and all these information changes go into water energy food nexus model for calculating the indices. Excuse me. Now coming to results, you can see that average annual precipitation is likely to increase in future in the study area. This is the trend shown under two scenarios. Similarly, actual evapotransport will also increase, which is quite expected as the temperatures are likely to increase. Then thermal energy, as far as thermal energy production is concerned, though there will be a decline, but magnitude will not be significant. Only up to 2% decline is likely to, is expected. So that change is not really significant. But if you go into the food crop production or crop yields, that is there is a significant change. That means under this SSP 245 scenario, we expect a 10 to 20% of decline under two scenarios, basically. In the paddy yield during the Kharif season, which is monsoon season, that is main paddy growing season in the country. And if you look at the winter season, that is Rabi season, and then we find that the condition is even worse, because SSP 2.4 forecasts a 15 to 20% decrease, while SSP 585 predicts a 25 to 30% decrease. That means overall there will be paddy yield is likely to go down by 20 to 30% depending upon which season we are talking about. So that means it is going to be a serious consideration. And if you look at the impacts on the water security index, as well as water energy and food security, as well as WS index, then the values we find is 0.83, 0.89 in 2021, which are likely to go down to 0.41, 81, 88, 65 under SSP 245, and 0.58, 0.78, 0.87, 0.74 under SSP 585 by year 2019. That the results suggest that the water, energy, and food security in the Kangsabeti Basin may face significant challenges in the future, particularly under SSP 585 scenario. That means the numbers are not significant, but the trend definitely shows that we have to be careful for future as far as all these resources are concerned. So with this, I come to policy. Actually, this particular module that is still under development. And basically, this policy module will analyze the impact of policy changes on the water, energy, food sufficiency in a study area. And basically, it depends on scenario development. Development, and that means like it will try to answer questions like what technologies make irrigation more efficient, should irrigation pumps be propagated, what ways of operating dams and sustain wetland fisheries, and so on and so forth. So basically, this model will seek answers to many such questions through scenario development. The process is still on. Maybe by the end of this year, we'll be able to develop this model completely. Now, with this, I come to the conclusion, that is, the developed model analyzes water, energy, and food security by generating WF sub-indices and Nexus index. And the test cases highlight the significance of modeling tools to analyze the water, energy, food security and the impact of climate change on water, energy, food nexus at different scales and under varying scenario. Before I say thank you, I would like to mention that we have 3 papers published on the work. The first one is in ICID Journal of Irrigation Drainage. The second, which is a national level study published in Environmental Science and Policy. And we have also analyzed coupling and coordination of water, energy, food nexus, and that has been published in Sustainable Production and Consumption. With this, I thank you all. Thank you for your attention. And of course, it mentioned that we'll be given the chance to answer to various questions. So I will wait for my turn that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Singh, for excellent presentation. All experience you shared in short time. Very nice, and we are proud that even one paper got published in the Irrigation and Drainage Journal. I think it was presented in Adelaide workshop.
Yes, that's right.
Very happy to know. And I think you have many questions listed. You can go through those questions. At the end, you can pick what are appropriate for you. You can answer. Okay,
Yeah.
like we will have the answering at the end. Any comment from the chair, Dr. Raghav?
Yeah, excellent presentation, definitely. And this is what we are really, the webinar is about quantification and the modeling application. And really, the presentation today covered so many aspects wonderfully. And I would like to thank Dr. Singh really for sharing this knowledge with us. The only thing really I would maybe raise here is that the land use changes as well. We started to look into it, and maybe in the future, a land use changes impact.
Yeah, we are working on that module also. We have developed the framework, but we have not started working. But probably next that will be the next step actually. Land use changes.
Because sometimes, yeah, that would help. Because I'm really hoping that a paddy rice cultivation will change to dry rice cultivation or drip irrigated rice, and that actually could fill in the gap of the reduction of 10-15% you mentioned due to climate change. That can easily be filled by moving to a different way of water saving in rice cultivation. So that's one thing that we could solve actually that reduction due to climate change by simply improving the rice cultivation, moving from paddy to dry rice or drip irrigation. The other thing really I had also is when we talk about food security, first of all, I'm glad to see India is secure food-wise, given the size of population. Well done, guys, in India, that you are able really to have a food security, given that you are above 1 billion inhabitants. But one thing really always comes to mind when it comes to food: accessibility. You mentioned the availability, and you mentioned accessibility, but affordability was not mentioned. And some organization and non-governmental organization, they started to talk about more about affordability. That's a hidden factor. Although you might have plentiful food, but people cannot afford to buy the food. So the food security here is a bit under question mark when affordability is not taken into account. I know it is subjective parameter, but we might put some quantification on that parameter or include that parameter in future development of the model, the affordability of the food. And I might also say affordability for water and energy, because also some people, they they sit in the dark simply because they cannot afford energy cost. And that's actually not only happening in developing nations, but I can tell you also in the UK, we have families here because of the rise in energy cost. They have been talking about heat or feed, the choice between heating your house or feeding your children. So even in a rich country like UK, that was the balance between the money I have. Should I use it to heat the house, or should I give it to buy food for my kids? So maybe also the affordability, not only really related to the food, but also the energy. Thank you, Dr. Singh. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank for nice comments. I think we shall go for the second presentation. Dr. Lakshan Namo, are you there, please?
Yes, I'm there.
We'd like to see you. Very nice.
Okay,
Welcome.
that
Dr.
is
Singh, can
Lakson
you
Namo.
please close your presentation, please?
Yeah. Dr. Singh, you can close the presentation. Yeah.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lakshan Namo, South Africa, to all the participants here. And he is a research manager with the Water Research Commission of South Africa, specialized in agriculture water management and transformative and circular approach for sustainable climate change adaptation. So very warm welcome, Lakshan Namo, for this webinar. And I really thank our Vice President Sylvester for recommending you for this webinar, for beautiful work you people doing there. And in fact, he is also an honorary researcher with the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And Dr. Namo prides himself in working on transforming the livelihoods of vulnerable smallholder farmers in marginalized areas. That was what our chair was telling. The people who are not having affordability, how can we attend to that? In fact, we are really feel happy that your focus is on the farmers in the marginalized areas. More than 20 years of research experience spanning over 3 continents he has: South America, Europe, and South Africa. Published more than 80 international papers, peer-reviewed papers. In fact, their team has done quite good work in WF Nexus and published many papers and publications they share to ICID. They are also available in our working group ICID website. People can access certain publications of their group. His research include agriculture water management, the water energy food nexus, transformative and circular approach, environmental GIS, remote sensing, and climate change adaptation. With this, he has a lot of many awards, etc., but I'm not going to that. This is briefly about Lakshan Namo. I request you to take over and make your presentation, please.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I would like to greet all the participants and all protocol observed. Yes, I'm Lakson Namo from the Water Research Commission. I'm going to do this presentation on the integrative analytical wave nexus model, its applications and the derivatives, a model that we developed here in South Africa with my colleagues, Sylvester Mpandeli, the Vice President of ICID, Kathbert Taguta, who is a PhD student at University of KwaZulu-Natal, and Professor Tafadzwanashe Mabaudi, who is a professor at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Thank you so much. I'm going straight to my presentation, and my slides are not moving. And my slides are not moving.
Okay.
Apologies, it's technology. I don't know where I went wrong. I don't know where I went wrong. I tested it before. Okay, they've moved. They've moved somehow. They've moved. Okay. Why Nexus thinking? Some call it planning, whatever they call it. It is a lot of names. And why the transition from the current linear economy approach. I think the situation is changing. What it was 30 years ago is not what it is today, and it will be different in the next 30 years. So there are changes, there are drivers of change. There are 4 thematic areas that we should think of here. There are drivers of change. The circumstances or the things that are making this change happen today. And these changes are risking livelihoods, and we are being exposed to things that were not there before. And therefore, we need to prepare and recover and enhance adaptation and resilience. Population is increasing as a driver of change, and as a result, there's rapid urbanization and climate change cut across all the sectors. It's not selective. It does not respect whether they are coming from the developed world or from the developing world. We are in the northern hemisphere or in the southern hemisphere. And agriculture is expanding. There's a need to continue feeding the growing global population to meet the needs. So agriculture is under a lot of pressure to meet the food demands of a growing population. Yet at the same time, the food basket is shrinking. The globe is being fed by a few cereals. 4, let me be specific, 4 of them. And most of them are not adaptable in the countries where they've become staple foods. So I'm going to give an example why we are here, why the need of the change, why changing from the current models that we are using. I'm going to give an example of Southern Africa. For example, I just want to link the relationship between food, energy, climate change, and so forth. For example, in Southern Africa, by 2050, Southern Africa will only be able to provide only 30% of its food requirements. That's a big challenge. The population is growing, and the agriculture will not be able to meet the food requirements of almost 87% of its population. Where is that food going to come from? And to make things worse, 15% decrease in agricultural yields by 2050. If global warming increases by 2%, and with what we have already experienced this March, the hottest March ever, and this situation is expected to increase. And in Southern Africa, 60% of our people reside in rural areas, and they depend on natural resources, which are highly vulnerable. They are climate sensitive sectors, so they are naturally vulnerable to climate change. And this is climate change. And by 2020, 75 to 250 million people risked water scarce. And by 2050, 350 to 600 million people will be at risk of increased water stress. To be specific, currently 38% of the population in Southern Africa live in water-stressed areas. So these challenges, you can see they are interlinked. The Venn diagram is showing that. So it's risking livelihoods, human and environmental health, and it's a threat to sustainable development goals. That's why as the research on water, energy, food nexus increased as from 2015 when the sustainable development goals were started by the United Nations General Assembly. So what do we need? We need to prepare for the coming things, the changes that are coming. We need a transformation. So we need to adopt or to move from the linear approach and accept or adopt the transformative approaches. These include nexus planning, the water, energy, food nexus, scenario planning, the circular economy itself, sustainable food systems, including the just transition. We have the energy transition, the food just transition, and so forth and so forth. And we need to adapt, to enhance adaptation and the resilience. Once we do, because if we continue with the business as usual, the future does not look good. Okay, my apologies. My slides seem to be moving slowly, but I'll try to speak a bit faster. I'm not sure why. Apologies for that. Apologies for that, if it is my network or what. Apologies for that.
If it's a problem, we can ask our headquarters to share from their end.
I think it will be better because of time. Let me try to stop sharing, and you can share. I think that's better.
Just stop sharing once and do it once again.
Oh, you want me to share again?
Yeah, please share it once again. It will get activated.
Okay, let me try. Okay. Okay, they are moving. At least they are moving. Let me try to move down the ribbon.
We are able to see you, see your presentation now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The WEF Nexus and its complexities. Okay, the essence, what is the essence of this WEF Nexus? I've already explained that there is a need to move from the linear approach and toward the secular approach. It's a secular approach, the water energy food nexus, but it's a complex because we are talking of the sectors. We are saying let's integrate the sectors, but they are coming from different sectors and they've got different units of measurements. So how do we do that? It's a complex system. It's a puzzle, actually. But however, if we manage to develop models, the water energy food nexus and their derivatives can enhance security. Remember the reason why the water energy food nexus became so prominent after 2015. It was all about the water energy food nexus, their securities. Therefore, all the other 14 sustainable development goals are framed around the water energy food sector. Actually, the water energy food, they've got their own dedicated goals. Therefore, the development in any of these sectors should be implemented only after considering the impacts on the other sectors. That is, we need to consider the trade-offs and synergies. For example, I'm sitting in South Africa. The National Development Plan talks of increasing the agricultural land by 45,000 hectares. But the question is, it's a noble because the population is increasing and there's need to meet the food requirements of that growing population. But the question is, where's the water? South Africa is a water scarce country and 98% of our water resources are already allocated. Where is the energy? We are facing an energy crisis currently in the country. So it's a puzzle. So how do we manage the three resources together? But once we achieve that cross-sectorial management of resources, we need to break those silos, the silo thinking, and we need to break that. So we thought ourselves, what should we do? We need to provide evidence because one of the reasons why the water energy food nexus was criticized was because it lacked empirical evidence. Policymakers were saying, show us the evidence. Where's the evidence? But we thought of this is a really complicated, it's a concept that is multifaceted. It has got many faces, many centers. And it's transdisciplinary. We need to include different disciplines, water, energy, food, maybe health, environment, and so forth. And it's polycentric. So that is the puzzle. So we said, how can we achieve this? Different units of measurements. So we thought maybe we need to do a multi-criteria decision thinking here. And it proved worthwhile for us. Therefore, we said, what is the reason? Where is it coming from? Why all of a sudden the water energy food nexus has become so prominent since 2015? Why? Because it needs to ensure the security of water, energy, and food. And what are the indicators that speak to food, to resource security? So we said it should be availability, accessibility, self-sufficiency, and productivity. Okay? So my slides again. Yeah, this is, I don't know. Whenever I'm doing Zoom, these things happen. My apologies, colleagues. Okay, I've stopped sharing. Let me share again. Let me try to close some of the that I'm seeing here. They could be causing that problem and they are refusing to close. Okay, my apologies for the time, but I'll try my level best to be as quick as possible. Okay. Can you confirm that you're now seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Thank you,
see.
thank you, thank you. Therefore, we said those indicators that speak to availability, productivity, accessibility, and self-sufficient. So we chose, we selected those sectors, those indicators in the water sector that speak to water security. The same applies with energy, the same applies with food. As you can see in the water, proportion of available freshwater resources per capita, and so forth and so forth. I'm not going to read all those indicators. I believe the presentation will be shared to everyone. Therefore, what we did was to do an analytic hierarchy process, which is a multi-criteria decision method. And we developed the pairwise comparison matrix. It's just an idea of comparing each of those indicators for water, energy, and food, and comparing how they relate to each other. And we developed the second table there. As you can see, if you can see my mouse there, this is the pairwise comparison matrix that we developed for South Africa at the national level. And we developed the normalized indices. And the most important thing in this pairwise comparison matrix is that one needs to do a lot of stakeholder engagement and also knowledge from literature, and also there are pillars which you need to consider as well, which speak to resource security, which are for the pillars include affordability, stability, safety, that is for water, and for energy, you need to also include pillars such as reliability, sufficiency, and the energy type as well. I'm including the energy type because some of the energy types are being condemned because they are causing climate change. And on food, we also considered accessibility, availability, affordability, and stability. And the one important thing is there must be consistency. We also made sure that the consistency is correct. It should be 1. And those normalized indices should sum up to 1. So for South Africa, for example, the spider graph, you can actually relate the security of those resources, of those indicators. I mean, you can you can see the spider diagram and the centerpiece. There you can see that it's deformed, which means it's an imbalanced economy. There is the country or the policymakers are pursuing certain indicators that this is the main reason why we are failing to achieve the sustainable goals. Countries have achieved to a certain extent some of the indicators, yet most of them, only 15% have been achieved, or they are showing progress. The rest, they are actually in retrogression. Oh, they are moving my slides. Okay, then with the Wave Nexus indicators and progress in South Africa between 2015, this is how we applied it between 2015 and 2020. And we want to see how these can assist in assessing progress towards achieving the sustainable development goals. The same indicators, we have got the indicator status for 2015 and 2020. We did the same thing, the pairwise comparison matrix for 2015 and a period of 5 years, and we developed the composite indices. Remember, we are just abbreviated these indicators. We say water availability, water productivity, energy accessibility, and so forth for ease modeling. Therefore, we developed again to show the progress between 2015 and 2020. That is the spider graph. The blue line is for 2015. The orange line or whatever color is for 2020. You can see what happened. You know, in 2015, that is when there was a very terrible drought in Southern Africa. There was Cape Town, this town that you know, most of you know, almost approaching the day zero. You can see how everyone was focusing with the situation in 2015 and how it improved after that. You can see, but you see there is the centerpieces, they are supposed to be secular to show that there's a balanced resource management. So what do we learn from there? Typical of an imbalanced economy, the centerpieces are deformed in shape. And the essence should be to achieve circularity in the centerpieces. And the shape of the centerpieces indicate the priority areas for immediate intervention. That is one important aspect of this model. Yeah, they are refusing to move again. What a problem. Okay, let me do the trick. Again, my apologies. Stop sharing. Okay. But let's hope my presentation, my talk
comprehensive coverage and yet another excellent presentation. And I look for the third, another excellent presentation from Dr. Alok next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure. I welcome Dr. Alok Kesika. Are you there, please?
Yes.
Alok? Yeah.
Yes, I'm there.
Glad to see you. I'm free. In fact, this is the third presentation for today and the final one. And in fact, it's my pleasure to introduce Alok Sikaji. Many of you know him. He is with the International Water Management Institute Delhi office as Union representative to India since April 2016. He is there. And you know, he is a doctorate from civil and environmental engineering with specialization in hydrology and water resource engineering from Utah State University. He was earlier Deputy Director General, Natural Resource Management of Indian Council of Agriculture Research, and he was technical expert, watershed development, the rank of Additional Secretary to the Government of India, and he was national working with the National Rainfed Area Authority, Government of India. He was also earlier worked as the Director of Indian Council of Agriculture Research Complex for Eastern Region, Patna. He has a diverse experience of over 38 years in research, institutional and policy issues, teaching, training, extension, and consultancy in the areas of natural resource management, watershed development, many areas. So this is briefly about Alok Sikaji. I now request him to take over for his presentation. Alokji, welcome.
Yeah, so I hope my screen is visible, presentation.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
yes.
All right, so first of all, thank you very much for having given this opportunity, and thanks for my introduction. I think my job has been made much simpler because the other speakers before me, because unfortunately I was not there, I was on the way coming to this place, and I'm some other remote areas right now. And so I didn't listen to the previous speakers. Of course, I listened to Lakshman just briefly. And so I understand that the way he was summing it up, that perhaps my job is made much more easier, and I don't have to really underscore the importance of water, energy, food nexus. Though in this slide which you are looking at it right now, you'll see particularly in the context of South Asia, where there is a deeper dependence on groundwater. And groundwater comes also at the cost of also lifting groundwater, which comes with energy. So there is a strong nexus between water, groundwater irrigation and energy. And of course, then it connects with the agriculture. So there is really a strong nexus between these, and particularly in the South Asia, which is really facing a severe risk of groundwater depletion. So that's the kind of background. And I think I'll not talk much about this particular slide because we know that, as Lakshman has also mentioned that, and so the president, past president, Professor Raghav, we cannot manage water in isolation. We have to see that how the decisions and the actions which are taken in the other sectors, particularly food, energy, environment, they really have an impact on the water sector. So that is why it is really, though it started sometimes back in 2011 with World Economic Forum, and it has been catching up. And now I think there is a greater sense of realization that web nexus is really important things to be considered. And that's because we are losing our sustainability in terms of food, water, and energy sector, and because of the strong interconnectedness that we have across these three sectors. I think just to continue on that, one CGIAR has started 2 years back a mega program on this nexus gains, realizing multiple benefits. So this is something that I will be touching upon part of that. And this is where I am working in the Ganga Basin. So my presentation would be mostly focused around this thing on the Ganga Basin and trying to see how we are developing a kind of integrative network, as Lakshman was talking about, because with Tafazwa and I have been also working together in some of those things which I was talking about. And so this is something that we are trying to look into. And we know that there are gainers and the losers when we are talking about the Nexus approach. Now, if you look at it on the right-hand side of the screen, where you will see, like particularly in the case of India, where heavy subsidization of electricity or the free electricity leads to over-extraction of groundwater. So the one policy on the energy side is kind of becoming detrimental to the water sector. And at the same time, if you try and look into the left-hand side, if we follow proper agricultural water management practices, improving agricultural water productivity, so all this agricultural water productivity gains will also have energy efficiency gains. And because of this intrinsic relationship that we see between these two, there's going to be a gain. And that is something that we are trying to see how best we can make use of this nexus in realizing the gains or the benefits, as the past president was talking about. And when we are looking into that, we would agree that water is the entry point and it is the most unifying thread across all these sectors. And so that is where we all are working on. And I think that's something very important. Now I take you back to the various policies, because when we are looking into this nexus, we have to look about that where are the government's programs and the policies. Now, when you look at government programs and the policies, you will see that they are naturally more centric towards their own department, to their own ministries, and they are formed at various points of time with kind of various priorities in mind. And so these policies, when they are there for the different sectors, there is a very much inadequate consideration about the interconnectedness and how one will impact the other. You will see in this case that particularly we did a kind of complete overall review to look into where is the trade-off between these various government operated policies and the programs. And we looked into over 40 such government of India programs which have an element of water, energy, food, or environment sector. And there were significant overlaps, but they were mostly in the silos. And so that brings us to the fact that we have to really look into where is the trade-off across all these. And the best way, or the one important way forward to address this kind of a trade-off. And not only a trade-off, we are also interested in looking into the foresight analysis, is looking into integrated approach. And when we talk about integrated approach, one way forward is integrated modeling. And this is something that some of the slides which I'll be sharing with you are really centered around that. Now here, this is a recently published review which we did around this kind of how there are the policies of the government and where are the gaps and kind of incoherence and the need to bring in more of the coherence across these policies. Now, while doing this, as I said, as a part of this, our Nexus Gain global initiative, which is there in 5 basins across the world. Of course, I'm concentrating only in the Ganges basin part of the India, and where we try to look into the integrated modeling, both the surface and the groundwater, and also we are looking into the other sectors with the scenarios, where we have been using the SWOT plus model, which we have set it up for this thing. And of course, whatever the data we could gather for validation and calibration we did, plus we used also the global data set from GLOFAS. And again, then we are looking into various scenarios. When I come to the move forward, I'll talk about those scenarios. And as you see here, we have done what we call the hydrological response units. We have divided the entire thing into 1,000 plus response units, and which are more homogeneous in the characters. And this is the kind of the flow chart which we are telling that how best we are integrating this thing across water, food, and energy sector. So this is what we did, the calibration and the validation as a normal practice, which we do in any kind of hydrologic modeling. And then further on, we have looked into these kind of scenarios as how I think, I do not know, somewhere perhaps it is getting mixed up because I'm not able to show the previous slide. Yeah. So this is the kind of the results of this entire modeling, which you say per se, how the volumes across various things on the surface flow, subsurface flows, irrigation, ET are looking into. This is just for the purpose of you to visualize it. And then we have been trying to look into a much more smaller sub-basin within that, which is the Ramganga, to try and look into in more detail. And so this is something that the process which we have followed using a QSWAT and then the SWAT editor and SWAT toolbox. And so the purpose of doing all these things was to try and again run it and look into, as I said, more deep dive studies for the Ramganga catchment, which is still within this thing. Now, as the previous speaker was talking about, in a similar way, we are also looking into various West Nexus Composite Sustainability Index. Now, when we are looking into that, they are the similar kind of the indicators that the water, energy, and food. We are looking into that water use or consumption, or energy use and energy consumption, physical as well as the economic productivity of water as well as energy. We normalize these indicators to come up with a more overall composite water, energy, food, or West Nexus. And that's the kind of ultimate goal. And I said that the work is still in progress, but I'll be just sharing very few glimpses of that. Like the way we are looking into, and when we are trying to look into this West Nexus indicators and the composite index, if you see on this, on the left-hand side, the business as usual, which is overall efficiency of irrigation as 38%, and how the WEF index looks like. And when you look at it on the right-hand side picture with taking the efficiency at 75%, which is what we are doing is that we are running various scenarios, and the scenarios of various water management interventions, we are running it through the improved efficiency. And so that is how we are trying to mimic that or simulate that into the entire gamut of things. And if you look into these things, that the pictures which were kind of areas which were earlier very weak on the Nexus or negative on the Nexus, once we are looking into this improving the efficiency of irrigation in groundwater areas, others, there is more positivity because when we are improving the efficiency of irrigation, we are also improving on reducing the energy consumption as well as the water saving. And of course, not at the cost of food production. So you'll see on the extreme right that there are different districts in the Ramganga basin where we have seen that the blue line, if you see, that was with the higher management level of improved efficiency, and with the business as usual, which we have, is a kind of the brown one. And you can see that with that, how there is a more positivity in terms of the water, energy, food nexus. So that's just an example, because we are running it for many scenarios and many areas, which I don't think that I'll have time to get into. And this is something that with that, how we are really saving on water and energy. Now, this is something that which is coming from not that modeling, but again, we are working from the water productivity point of view, using the more classical modeling approach on water productivity using AET, and where again we have done it for the Ganga basin. And this is mainly to tell you and see that there are like 81 districts or other 80 where there is severe groundwater over exploitation. So the way is that either to reduce the groundwater footprints, we either do the crop diversification, or you go into very high level of intense management with high level of improved irrigation efficiency. So those are the kind of a thing that, and if we are reducing the area under this thing and rice and wheat, then can we reduce the yield gap? Because that's one way forward by any other measures. So now, keeping that into view, we are running various scenarios analysis using the FABLE, and where we are looking into water management, AWM interventions using mimicking it through improved efficiencies. We are also looking into the storages, and of course, crop diversification and the energy, including the solar and environmental flow. This is the kind of the examples which you'll see here, that how we are looking into and working out those various set of scenarios using the FABLE indicators calculator, which our colleague from International Food Policy Research Institute, Vartika, is feeding into our, because this is a project which is being run by multiple CG centers. And so this is the kind of a soft linkages which we have it across that. And then the scenarios we are getting from there, we are having it softly linked with our integrated modeling, which we have seen. This is something which my previous speaker has already shown you. And I also happen to be one of the co-authors of this, which shows that when we are looking into various irrigation methods, how when we are moving on from surface to sprinkler to drip irrigation, that, and we are, if we look into in isolation, just we look at either water productivity or crop productivity or energy productivity, we don't get a we get a siloed approach. So when we go and look at a kind of integrated nexus approach index, that really gives you a much more better picture. So I'm not going to take more time because he has already talked about it. Now, looking into this kind, what are the way forwards and the barriers? Now, we know that there are a number of barriers which are there, and because there are a lack of policies and programs which are more kind of working across. And despite the understanding, and we all have been talking about, but how much of this web nexus framework and thinking have gone into bringing a more practical application at the field level, that is something which is more challenging, and that's something that really we have to look into. And that's where this kind of integrative tool can really become handy. And when we put the economics into that, we can really impress upon the policymakers that if you are doing like this, this is how it's going to be look like in the future. So the going forward, so as we have seen that sustainable water management is going to be the key under the climate change, and we need to have a more integrated approach for optimizing the benefits from water, land, and energy use efficiencies. And the kind of the integrated framework which we have, my previous speakers have shown, and this one, or maybe the previous one, or Rajendra has talked about it. So I think there's a need that we really impress upon that wholeheartedly and try and engage with the policy makers to tell them that how best these can be used in a more practical way at the field level or at the planning level, whatever is being done. And as I said in the beginning, really to manage water well, we have to think beyond water. Otherwise, I think we'll be still working in our own silos. So as I said, this work is based on CDIR Nexus Gains initiative and also support from ICIR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, and the team of the scientists working and the leads and the co-leads. So I think with this, thank you very much. And over to you, Dr. Reddy.
Thank you, all of you. Though you travel a lot, finally you could able to join us. Thanks for sharing nice presentation and your work. And it's really a pleasure to have you here. I request our chair, Raghav, to make his comments on the presentation, please.
Megan, I can stop sharing now?
Yeah, you can stop the sharing. Meanwhile, you can go through any questions relevant to you. You can answer after the comments from the president. Okay?
Yeah, I think my colleague, Dr. Deepak Sena is also online. And so maybe because he's one of the person who's been working, so if anything is there, he can also. So, okay, over to you.
We thought in our options, you can make the presentation, but anyway, you joined us. That's fine. Okay, he can support you. I request Raghav to make, because we have to take some questions now. A lot of questions are listed there.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
We have about 10 minutes for that.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent presentation as expected from Dr. Alok. Yeah, he highlighted here the importance of managing water within the Nexus. And also he referred to the sectoral Nexus gains versus the Nexus losers to show the importance of the gains and benefits. And also he mentioned that water is a unifying thread among the Nexus three elements, which is also quite important point to raise here. And also he suggested that we should really follow a coherent policies, not incoherent, and we should avoid silos thinking and management. And also he mentioned here the trade-off programs and also integrated hydrological modeling using SWOT and the trade-offs and the foresight analysis. And also he mentioned here the composite index and the analysis that he performed in one of the site, BOW, and how the index improved from 38% to 75% by simply using a water saving or MI system as an area of really that one can see the benefit of using the Nexus. And also he referred to the Ganges River Basin and the work that's ongoing. And it is a work in progress with different scenarios. And also he, at the end, he stressed the fact that we need a coherent policies for a better future and sustainable water management and the climate change needs an integrated approach. Thank you, Dr. Alok. Excellent presentation as usual. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, for nice comments on the presentation. Now we can take the questions. We have about 13 minutes time is there. It's good. Okay, there are about 28 things listed under question and answer. Many are appreciating the presentations I have seen, I have gone through. Some questions related to the specifically about the use of the models, etc. I think Dr. Rajendra Singh, there are many questions directed to you. Are you there, Dr. Rajendra Singh?
Yes. Can't you see me?
I can see you. Can you go through the questions relevant and
yeah, I have gone through. So if you permit me in 5 minutes please. Time, I that can answer a few of them.
Yeah.
Starting with Professor Raghav's point of including LULC change, and one of the participants, Snehal, has also asked the question. As I mentioned that we are in the process of including LULC change module also in our model. I would also like to answer Professor Raghav's another point he mentioned about affordability So I would like to just mention that currently the food accessibility, which is calculated, that also considers the domestic price level index. And through that domestic price level index, the economic affordability is considered actually. So maybe specifically it is not mentioned, but it is taken into account to a certain extent. Now there are a couple of questions. One from Aditya Narayan Sharma. SG goals are being addressed or not. So I would just like to ensure, of course, indirectly SDG 2, 6, and 7 are being handled. And I would request him to go through our publication, one of the papers published in Sustainable Production and Consumption, where we have specifically addressed the SDG goals 2, 6, 7 through our coupling and coordination analysis. So please go through that paper, published in volume 43, 2023. Then Siddiq has asked how map is generated. I mean, what is based on. So basically maps are the maps which I show. So maps are generated based on the indices we calculate. And as already I have mentioned during my presentation that our model uses party rand basically approach. And we have, of course, modified party rand to a large extent, and that I also mentioned into that. Another question is that how is the interaction among the WEF resources being taken into account? Of course, yes. I mean, you might not see directly, but indirectly, yes, because we have water availability on one side and water use on the other side. So obviously, so much of water is only available for meeting requirements, be it agriculture, be it domestic, or be it energy sector. So obviously that is being taken into account. Then another question by Elvis is that is the model freely available? That's a good question. First, presently it is not freely in the sense that if you ask, we can send you the model. It is not available on web, but we are in the process of developing a web-based version of the model. By the end of 2024, this will be freely available to all the users around the world, and we will be happy to share the model with all the users. Then another question was that a pertinent question from Aditya Sharma about use of a particular climate model, because we have used only one climate model. He has mentioned correctly that there are total 13 models which are applicable, but we have used only one based on, because we reviewed and there are 3 different publications in 2022 and 23, Matho and others, Reddy and Saravanan, Swan and others. These, based on that, they use these models and mention that R3 does the best for the study area. So that is why we thought that we'll use their reference, and we have used only one model. A couple of more questions. Dr. Bundela, DS Bundela, one of my friends, prominent scientist in ICR, he said that role of soil salinization should also be considered in WF Nexus. Thank you very much. We'll try to take that into account in our future roles. Then one question was from Inge, how the availability was projected for future. I think that's a good question. Actually, what we did for all our analysis, what we did that we developed all our analysis we conducted for 2 years, to 2011, for which we have official census data available in India, that is the last census, and 2021, where we use the projected population SEDAC data. And then we consider the decadal change, and that particular rate we have used for projecting for future years also, because that's the best way we could think we could do. Last question, which I would like to answer, was by Kausal, that how these indices were normalized. That is the question he has asked. So basically for that, we use the process, we followed the process that is used for developing the Human Development Index. and we use the Human Development Report 2020 as a reference, where the fixed cutoff points are divided from the quantile of distribution quantile that is available. So Kaushal can refer to Human Development Report 2020 for getting the specific methodology. We have followed the same one. I think in a nutshell, I have tried to answer most of the questions. A couple of them were pretty lengthy, so I could not handle. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Please, my email ID I have shared on my presentation. Anybody, I would like to get more and more feedback from users and from international listeners, and I will be happy to interact with them. Thank you very much.
There was one question from Rajendra Pawar asking that whether this model can be used for small area like a village.
Yeah, of course. That was this I forgot to mention. Yes, it can be done at any level. I mean, based on the data availability. That's not a problem.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Singh, for excellent answering these things. Okay. Now I request Namo, any questions relevant to you, if you could have traced out, can you directly go through them, please?
Thank you so much to the participants. Yes, I tried to respond to most of the questions in the chat box, and yeah, there were quite a number, so I don't remember them, but yeah, those who want the presentations, I think it will be shared on the ICID website within 3 to 5 days. Just go back there on the website, you can check the presentation, but I tried to answer most of the questions in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, as said that from the ICID website, you can access the presentations. They will be uploaded in a couple of days, and also the recording would be there. That also you can find out from the ICID website within a couple of days. Whoever interested, they can access. I am really very glad that we had at one time more than 175 participants attending from different countries. And even now at closing time, we have about 113 there. It was well attended. And really, I feel happy that 3 important presentations made by the eminent experts. A lot of these attendees, I could see that they are youngsters, researchers, scholars, and even representing some governments also there. So there is a lot of scope for engaging these people in these activities. In fact, I would like to tell that we are having this workshop, global international workshop, as our chair said in the beginning, in the ICID South Asian Conference in Sydney in this September. There is still time to submit the papers. People can join. Particularly, I requested Dr. Singh. A lot of your contributions can be shared there. Your paper can definitely one can add. And I see that we have our one Vice President Honorary Gungu from Turkey is also congratulating message. I could see there are many people attending from different parts. Now with this, I thank everyone who have attended. I request before that closing, I request our chair, Dr. Raghav, to say his concluding remarks, please.
Thank you, Vice President Yela. Yeah, it was really quite a good, fruitful day. We learned a lot today. We moved from Bali, when we were only talking about the Nexus, to really now seeing results of modeling and implementation. And also we could see there are some areas where the Nexus was useful to improve the security of water or the energy. And we are now really moving with quite fast steps within 4 years, from only talking about the Nexus to now really implementing it. And the presentation of today with 3 excellent speakers with excellent experience in that Nexus, it shows that we are really on the right track, and we are now getting away from the silos thinking to a more holistic approach to use the resources more efficiently to feed 9.8 billion people by 2050. And also we need to meet the increase in water consumption and also energy consumption, which is likely to increase by 50% by 2050. So we are in the right track to meet the challenges of the future, and the work that we have seen today is very promising. And I think all of it refers to the need to go away from silo thinking. Is saying, if she has no action, is that we should not forget the gender issue in the Nexus. The women participation in water and energy and the food production is really quite important. In so many countries, women they have the biggest burden on their shoulders really to produce food. And I think Dr. Nargis is really flying with the flag of the women participation and integration in the management boards. And also they should have more say, and they should also have more role in the decision making. And I think that's what I would imagine that Dr. Nargis will be talking about. And I think in Sydney, we put that item in our international workshop. And also I hope that we'll see more papers coming for promoting the gender participation in water, food, and energy nexus management. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Professor Nargis is connected now. Maybe she can talk.
We have upgraded this. She can now speak on the.
You can take 1 minute, please. Yeah.
Do you see me?
Yeah, we won't see you. You have to come on the screen. Only you can see your name.
Please, ma'am, you can speak now.
Okay. Thank you so much from ICID Central and Dr. Rajab and Dr. Reddy and Marco to organize this valuable webinar. Assuming that all of these models and tools developed are approved and agreed by experts, I would like to talk about how to successfully implement these models, especially under water scarcity conditions. Attention to the temporal and spatial conditions of the central issue of water in different regions of the world, where if it is scarce or absent, we will lack food and energy, guide us toward defining the rationale for addressing the nexus in various approach in water governance and management, especially in water scarce condition, is very crucial. I believe that many parts of our problems in implementation of the nexus approach in the management of water sector generally comes down to two issues. I briefly address them in this session. Deeper analysis or interpretation will be presented in an article being prepared for the Nexus workshop in Australia. The first issue is the lack of changes in the rationales within governance layer of countries, which can in turn lead to unchanged strategies and action plan for implementations. For example, water scarcity in the Middle East is the major reason why the water management sector needs to shift its focus from water consumption to water demand management. By accepting this change in strategy and addressing its rationale, the importance of addressing the nexus to aid water management becomes much clearer. It is then clear than the current challenges of how to produce more food per drop per kilowatt of energy and per unit of land area, while being important for food security is not enough. This is because water is inherently scarce in regions like the Middle East. Therefore, the strategy for managing water, food, and even energy security needs to change. It seems that we in ICID should pay special attention to awarding the governance layer of countries according to their conditions of water resources. Otherwise, countries lose their land resources such as water in order to care of the issue of the food security or economy. In the second part, the question arises, even if the strategy and rationale have changed, is it sufficient to focus on implementation tools? I refer to Dr. Rajab. Here is where the role of civil society groups, including experts, elites, pioneers, and scientists, and social groups ranging from the general public to farmers, become crucial in the implementation of this approach in water management. These social groups are part of the governance layer in governments, but a significant portion of them are also in the intermediary layer of the water management. Here we draw the attention of the global community.
Dr. Nargis, we are running out of time. Can you
That's
please
finished.
conclude?
Just
Yeah. Thank you.
That's
Okay,
finished. Here we draw the attention of the global community to the use and special attention to the capacity of the women and youth for implementation. Considering the problems of the water management sector, which is the most conflict between the stakeholders, women not only can act as facilitator between nexus factors in governance and management, water, food, and energy, but also as a new connection, help governance to change strategies. As well, while youth contribute to the implementation by developing tools to modern technologies and experts individuals. More regional details and analysis will be presented at the Australia workshop. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nargis. Your concern is well appreciated. We know how much you take interest in these aspects. And in fact, you have asked the international community to look after these things. Very much thankful for your observation. And we, in fact, we now come to the end of this one. I just I thank everyone. Before that, I think the President Marcos is there throughout the session. I again thank him, and I ask him to conclude concluding remarks from the President's side, please.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Yelaredi. Thank you, Professor Ragab and Vice President Ragab for chairing very well and moderating this excellent workshop, seminar, webinar. I want to thank also all the speakers for the excellent presentation that we have been given, and for the debate, the interesting debate, high-level debate that has been raised. Of course, I also want to thank Professor Nargis Zorabi for her making the point. And I could say that I'm very happy to having participating in this. This is my first webinar as the new president of ICID. And so I am very happy that the first webinar, the first step was a very good one, was an excellent one. So I could say that I want to say that the outcomes as expected have been very fruitful, and so we let me say that I will be looking forward to meet you all in our future workshop in Sydney, Australia. And of course, always with the support and enduring work by our people, our friends from ICID Center Office. Without their support, without their work, we could not be having these excellent results. So I wish you all a good day, and I thank you for this very interesting webinar, and I will be looking forward to participate to other initiatives as useful and as fruitful as this one. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
I am here for making two announcements.
Please.
All the presentations by our today's presenters will be available on our website in due course of time. Due to some certain issues of power failure and disturbed network, we are unable to record completely the recording of this webinar, but we assure that we have tried to get at least 70% of this webinar publication will be available, recordings will be available on our website in 3 to 4 days. We are very much thankful to our President, Dr. Marco, who has spared his valuable time and from his busy schedule. Also, we are very much thankful to our evergreen President, Honorable Dr. Raghav, for leading this workshop webinar and his work group. His work group is the excellent work group who manages everything as per the requirements of the ICID. So, Dr. Ella Reddy and Dr. Raghav we are very much thankful, and we congratulate you for arranging this very important webinar. We are very much thankful for our today's presenters, Dr. Rajendra Singh, Dr. Luxman Namo, Dr. Alok Sikka, for their excellent presentations. With your permission, we will make your PowerPoint presentations available on ICID website. Please answer the queries in future also regarding these issues. Thank you everyone for participating. All the participants are again requested to go through the recordings which will be available on the ICID website in 3 to 4 days time. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you,
Bye.
Shivati. Thank you, Madhu. Thank you, Shivati.
Thank you.
Excellent cooperation. Thank you.
Bye.
End. With this, we